crystalline arches of the Galactic Harmony Council chamber shimmered under the artificial sunlight filtering through the dome. Floating debate pods drifted in lazy orbits around the central dais, their occupants shifting with the gravity fluctuations of Solinak's phase turbulent atmosphere. Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted the collar of her plain grey jumpsuit, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes upon her. Her human form stood out starkly against the flowing robes of the Melar delegates, their silicon skin catching the light like polished stone, and the gelatinous qual bobbing in their nutrient-filled suspension pods. Directive Faye has been ratified, announced High Speaker Vexlor, his reptilian scales rippling with what might have been satisfaction. The Vex ambassador's forked tongue flicked out to taste the air as he unrolled a scroll of bioluminescent parchment. Effective immediately, uncontrolled human laughter is prohibited in all shared interstellar spaces. A murmur passed through the chamber. The Melar delegates remained impassive, their rigid faces incapable of expression, while several qual pulsed with colors Elena had come to recognize as unease. She clenched her fists, feeling the bite of her nails against her palms. On what grounds? Elena's voice cut through the murmuring, sharper than she'd intended. She forced herself to take a calming breath. With respect, High Speaker, laughter is a fundamental human expression. The Vex ambassador's armored tail rattled against the floor. Your species' cackling causes distress. It is unnerving. He hissed the last word, his vertical pupils narrowing. The sound waves alone have been shown to trigger fight or flight responses in 17 allied species. Elena couldn't help the smirk that tugged at her lips. So we're too loud for your delicate sensibilities. A qual delegate drifted forward, its translucent body swirling with muted blues. It is not merely volume, Dr. Vasquez. The telepathic voice resonated directly in her mind, carrying the faint taste of brine and something metallic. Your laughter carries unintended neurological effects. Our kind experiences it as overwhelming. Overwhelming how? Elena pressed, stepping closer to the floating jellyfish. Like being, she caught a whiff of ozone and salt water as the qual recoiled slightly. Before the delegate could respond, a Melar bureaucrat rose from its floating pod. The silicon-skinned being moved with mechanical precision, its voice a monotone hum. Data indicates human laughter triggers erratic neural activity in non-human species. The Harmony Council cannot permit such biological disruption. Elena turned to face the Melar, noting the fine cracks in its stone, like skin around what might have been a mouth. So you're banning joy now, that is your solution? It is regulation, not prohibition, the Melar corrected. Controlled environments may be designated for human emotional expression. The chamber erupted in a flurry of movement. Vex warriors stationed around the perimeter shifted their weight, claws flexing. Several qual delegates retreated to the far side of the chamber, their colors darkening to protective blacks and grays. Only the Melar remained perfectly still, their collective gaze fixed on Elena like statues observing an insect. Elena felt her pulse quicken. She'd known this was coming. The preliminary reports had been circulating for weeks, but hearing the official decree still sent a chill down her spine. She thought of her niece's birthday party last month, how the sound of children's laughter had made the visiting qual diplomat shudder, how the Melar trade envoy had requested they tone down the facial contortions during negotiations. Let me get this straight, Elena said slowly, deliberately. The Galactic Harmony Council, founded on principles of interspecies cooperation, is now telling humans to, what, stop being happy? High Speaker Vexlor's tail lashed. We are telling your species to control yourselves. Your neurological responses are too volatile for civilized discourse. Elena barked a laugh, sharp, unguarded. Around her, several qual flinched visibly, their colors flashing warning reds. A low growl rose from the Vex contingent. Oh, I'm sorry, Elena said. Not sorry at all. Was that too much emotion for you? The Mellar high speaker stood, its movements precise as a machine. Directive FA is not open for debate, Dr. Vasquez. Compliance is mandatory for continued membership in the Galactic Federation. Elena met the alien's blank, crystalline eyes. She thought of Earth's comedy clubs, of her father's terrible puns that always made her mother groan, of the way laughter had carried her people through centuries of hardship. Her fingers twitched toward the datapad in her pocket, where she'd stored months of neurological research. "Tell me, high speaker," Elena said, her voice dropping to something dangerous and quiet. "Have your scientists considered why our laughter affects you so strongly?" The chamber fell silent. Even the ever-present hum of the life support system seemed to quiet. The Mellar tilted its head, a gesture Elena had learned indicated confusion. "Your meaning is unclear," it intoned. Elena reached into her pocket, withdrawing the datapad. With a tap, a holographic display sprang to life above the central dais, brain scans flickering in brilliant colors. "These are neural readings from 17 different species exposed to human laughter," she said. "Notice anything interesting?" The Qual delegates drifted closer, their bodies pulsing with curiosity. The Vex ambassador hissed, but didn't interrupt as Elena zoomed in on a particular set of waveforms. "These spikes aren't distress signals," Elena continued. "They're pleasure responses. Overstimulated, yes, but pleasure nonetheless." She tapped another command, and the display shifted to show comparative scans. "Your species' brains aren't built to handle this much joy at once. It is not that we're too loud, it is that you're emotionally stunted." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The Mellar delegates remained still, but Elena noticed the faintest tremor in the high speaker's hands. The Vex ambassador's claws extended fully, scraping against the crystalline floor. "You overstep, human," Vexlaw snarled. Elena didn't back down. "No, I'm pointing out the truth. You're not protecting anyone. You're scared. Scared of what might happen if your people experience real, unfiltered happiness." She swept her gaze across the assembled delegates. "Tell me, when was the last time any of you laughed, truly laughed?" The silence stretched, the Qual's colors dimmed to something almost ashamed. The Mellar remained impassive. The Vex shifted uncomfortably, their tails twitching. High Speaker Vexalaw was the first to break the silence. "This discussion is over. Directive phase stands. Any human found in violation will face consequences." His yellow eyes locked onto Elena's. "Starting with you, Dr. Vasquez. Your research privileges are revoked. You will return to Earth immediately." Elena felt the weight of the decree like a physical blow, but she kept her chin raised. As the chamber erupted into motion, Vex guards moving to escort her out, Qual delegates hastily retreating, Mellar bureaucrats already drafting the official notices. She allowed herself one last, defiant smile. "Oh, I'll go," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But trust me, this isn't over. You can ban our laughter, but you'll never stop it." As the chamber doors hissed shut behind her, Elena Vasquez made a silent promise. They wanted to regulate human joy. Fine. She'd give them so much joy it would break their damn minds. The sterile white walls of Lunar Research Hub hummed with suppressed energy, the air filtration systems barely masking the scent of ozone and stale coffee. Dr. Elena Vasquez scrolled through the neural scans with growing disbelief, her fingers leaving faint smudges on the holographic display. The data streams pulsed in erratic waves, alien brain activity spiking like fireworks whenever exposed to human laughter. Lieutenant Marcus Cole leaned against the reinforced observation window, his boots leaving scuff marks on the pristine floor. He popped a bubble of gum, the sound cracking through the tense silence. "So let me get this straight," he said, nodding at the quivering brain scan of a Qual delegate. "The galaxy's top bureaucrats banned human laughter because it's, what, too funny for them?" Elena didn't look up. not funny, overwhelming. She tapped the display, zooming in on the Quall's neural pathways. Their pleasure centers are underdeveloped compared to ours. When they taste human laughter, it's like chugging pure serotonin. Their systems can't regulate it. Marcus whistled. So we're basically emotional nukes. More like untapped power sources. Elena flicked to another scan. This one of a Mela official. Its silicon-based brain showed fissures where human-induced joy had fractured its rigid emotional control. The council didn't ban laughter because it's disruptive. They banned it because it's dangerous to their control. A chime sounded at the lab door. HFY, the Mela defector, stood awkwardly in the threshold, cracks webbed across its usually smooth carapace, glowing faintly pink at the edges, a telltale sign of suppressed mirth. Apologies for intrusion, it droned, but the monotone was undercut by a slight tremor. I require assistance. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You okay, Tin? Man Zix. His ocular sensors flickered. I accessed your Saturday night live archives. My neural dampeners are failing. A hiccup escaped its vocal modulator, an eerie metallic sound that might have been a laugh. The human called Chapelle is problematic. Elena rushed forward, scanning HFY with her wrist, mounted diagnostic tool. Your pleasure inhibitors are overloading. If you keep watching, you'll become happy. HFY interrupted. Its voice wavered with something like defiance. I have been emotionless for phase cycles. If this is malfunction, I do not wish repair. Marcus snorted. Damn, he broke the robot with jokes. Elena ignored him, pulling up a new data set. This isn't just about comedy, look. She projected a security feed from the Harmony Council's private chambers. The Vex ambassador, a hulking reptilian clad in ceremonial armor, was twitching as a human aide whispered something in its ear. Its armored plates rattled, and for a split second, its slit pupils dilated, a universal sign of amusement. Son of a bitch, Marcus muttered. They're all susceptible. Not just susceptible. Elena's grin was razor sharp. Addicted, the Quall need emotional stimuli to survive. The Mela's logic breaks under cognitive dissonance. And the Vex. She zoomed in on the ambassador's claws, which were digging into its own thighs, clearly fighting laughter. Their aggression is a countermeasure. They're terrified of joy. HFY shuddered, another crack splintering down its arm. Then Directive Faye is not protection. It is suppression. Marcus cracked his knuckles. So what's the play, Doc? Start a stand-up rebellion. Elena turned back to her console, pulling up a classified file labeled Project Resonance. Better, she said softly. We weaponize it. The screen flickered to life, displaying schematics for a device that looked like a speaker cone fused with a warhead. Marcus leaned in, his smirk fading. Is that a sonic resonance cannon? Elena confirmed. But instead of dissonance waves, it emits laughter at frequencies tailored to each species' neural architecture. She tapped a key, and the screen split into simulations, Quall delegates dissolving into giggling puddles, Mela officials clutching their heads as their logic centers short, circuited Vex warriors dropping their plasma rifles to clutch their stomachs. Marcus blinked. You're telling me we can win a war by making our enemies laugh too hard to fight? Zix made that hiccuping sound again. This is highly illogical. Elena's smile didn't waver. Exactly. Outside the lab's observation window, Earth hung in the blackness of space, a blue-green marble wrapped in the faint shimmer of orbital defenses. Somewhere up there, the Harmony Council's fleet was amassing, ready to enforce their ban on human joy. Marcus exhaled, shaking his head. They have no idea what they just unleashed. Elena saved the files, her fingers flying over the keys. Then let's show them. The red sands of Mars whispered against the dome's reinforced glass as Elena Vasquez adjusted her hood, scanning the dimly lit alley. The entrance to the last chuckle was disguised as a maintenance hatch, its rusted hinges squeaking as Marcus Cole heaved it open. "After you, Doc," Marcus said, his gums snapping between his teeth. "Try not to crack any jokes until we're inside. Vex patrols have been sniffing around." Elena ducked through the hatch, the sudden warmth of crowded bodies hitting her like a wall. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and spilled synth ale. The bar was packed, humans in patched up jumpsuits, a cluster of quals pulsating nervously in their corner, even a few Millar defectors with their usual rigid postures, though one had a suspicious twitch near its facial plates. A stage stood at the center, its flickering hologram projector cycling through ancient Earth comedy icons. Chaplin Pryor, a pixelated clip of a man slipping on a banana peel. The crowd erupted as the clip looped, a qual near the front vibrating into a shade of neon pink. Zix, Faye the Mela defector, slithered toward them, its silicon skin cracked along the edges like dried mud. "You came," it said, voice a monotone rasp. The Council's enforcers raided 3 other clubs this cycle. They are unamused by your species' defiance. Elena smirked. Good. She pulled a data chip from her pocket. Then they're gonna hate this, Marcus groaned. Oh no, tell me that's not. It's Ricky's last set, Elena confirmed, slotting the chip into the stage's console. Banned in 12 systems for causing qual meltdowns. The hologram flickered, then resolved into the image of Ricky Sanchez, a legendary stand-up from the pre-Exodus era. His opening line boomed through the speakers. So a Vex, a qual, and a Mela walk into a bar. The crowd lost it. A qual near the back shrieked, its gelatinous body quivering into a rainbow swirl before plopping into a puddle of giddy goo. A Mela in the corner made a sound like grinding gears, its version of a snort before clapping a hand over its mouth. Then the door exploded. Vex enforcers stormed in, their armored boots cracking the floor tiles. Their leader, a hulking brute with scarred plating, leveled a neural disruptor at the stage. By order of Directive Faye, this gathering is terminated. Silence. Then Ricky's voice crackled, and the bartender says, Hey, we don't serve your kind here. The Vex leader's eye twitched, his grip on the disruptor faltered. Elena leaned into the mic. You heard the man. We don't serve your kind here. A human in the back yelled, Boom! Roasted! The Vex shoulders shook, his armor rattled, then impossibly, a wheezing, high-pitched giggle burst from his vocalizer. His disruptor clattered to the floor as he doubled over, gasping. Cease, he choked. My lungs are not designed for this. The bar erupted. Quals dissolved into puddles of joy. Mela clutched their heads, their rigid logic circuits frying under the onslaught of wordplay. Even the other Vex enforcers staggered, their weapons dropping as laughter racked their bodies. Marcus grabbed Elena's arm, dragging her toward the back exit. We gotta go now, he hissed. Before they reboot. Zix, Faye slithered after them, its cracks widening into something resembling a grin. Fascinating, your laughter. It is not disruptive. It is contagious. Elena shot a look back at the chaos. Vex warriors rolling on the floor, a qual hiccuping with glee as it reformed. Yeah, she said, and that's why they're scared of it. The hatch slammed shut behind them, but not before the sound of a Vex desperately trying to not laugh at a fart joke echoed into the Martian night. The first Vex dreadnought appeared without warning, its obsidian hull blotting out the stars as it slid into high Earth orbit. Then another, and another. Within hours, the entire Silent Judgment fleet formed a jagged ring around the planet, their weapon ports glowing faintly like the eyes of predators in the dark. Elena Vasquez watched the tactical display in Lunar Command, her fingers tightening around the edge of the console. The holographic projection flickered as more red dots appeared, Vex interceptors taking up position around Mars, their boarding parties already descending on the underground clubs. They're not wasting time, Lieutenant Marcus Cole muttered beside her. his jaw working around a piece of gum. His sidearm was already strapped to his thigh, though they both knew bullets wouldn't stop what was coming. The comm crackled to life. A Vex admiral's voice hissed through, translated by the system's AI into something just barely intelligible. Human settlement designated Lunar Hub Alpha. You are in violation of Galactic Harmony Directive. Surrender all individuals involved in emotional dissemination activities immediately. Elena tapped the response channel open. Admiral, with all due respect, go choke on vacuum. Marcus snorted, then quickly schooled his expression as the Admiral's reply came through, this time with an edge of something almost like frustration. Your defiance is noted. Compliance is mandatory. Neural dampeners will be installed in all human subjects within phase standard hours. The screen switched to a feed from Earth, rows of sleek, silver devices being unloaded in Geneva, each one designed to clamp around the base of a human skull. Elena's stomach twisted. You've got to be kidding me, Marcus said, stepping closer to the screen. They're really going to lobotomize an entire species because we laugh too loud. Elena turned to the lunar comm officer. Get me a direct line to the USN Defiant, now. The Defiant wasn't much to look at. A retrofit cruiser from the last border skirmish. Its missile bays stripped and replaced with something far more dangerous. Captain Hiraku Sato's face appeared on the screen, her dark eyes sharp. Vasquez, I assume you've seen the party guests? Seen them? They're practically knocking on our door, Elena said. We need the Defiant in position now. Sato smirked. Already moving. But you realize this is insane, right? We're about to fight a war with jokes. Elena glanced back at the feed of Geneva, at the crates of dampeners being loaded onto transports. No, we're about to remind the galaxy why you don't mess with human happiness. The Defiant's engines flared as it broke orbit, sliding into the shadow of the moon. Its new weapon systems hummed to life. Not missiles, not lasers, but massive resonance emitters, each one tuned to frequencies no alien brain could withstand, aboard the lead Vex dreadnought. Admiral Crix watched the Defiant's approach with disdain. Pathetic, a single human ship? His second, in command, a younger Vex with less patience, flicked his tongue. Shall we destroy it? Crix waved a clawed hand. No, let them come. Let them see the futility of resistance. The Defiant didn't fire. It didn't need to. As it neared the blockade, its comms officer opened a channel, not to the Vex, but to every open frequency in the system. Then, with perfect timing, the ship broadcast the first joke. It was an old one. A classic. Why don't scientists trust atoms? The Vex bridge crew stiffened as the translation's Crix phase scales flattened in irritation. What is this nonsense? The punchline hit because they make up everything for a second. Nothing happened. Then one of the junior officers let out a choked, wheezing sound. His armored plates rattled. His claws dug into his console. He was laughing. Crix whirled on him. Control yourself. But it was too late. The resonance emitters flared, amplifying the effect, and suddenly the entire bridge was shaking. Not from weapons fire, but from the convulsions of Vex warriors, who had never, in their entire evolutionary history, experienced anything like this. On the Defiant, Sato grinned. Hit them again. The second joke was dirtier. The third was pure slapstick. By the fourth, half the Vex fleet had stopped responding to hails, their crews too busy clutching their sides in helpless, wheezing agony. Back on Luna, Marcus stared at the tactical feed in disbelief. Holy hell, it is working. Elena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Told you laughter was a weapon. Then the alarms blared. A new wave of ships jumped into the system, not Vex, but Qual. Their jellyfish, like forms pulsed with erratic colors as they drifted toward the Defiant, their telepathic networks already overloaded with the echoes of human humor. One Qual ship collided with a Vex interceptor, both crews too incapacitated to steer. Another simply floated in place, its occupants giggling themselves into a stupor. Marcus shook his head. We broke them. Elena watched as the Defiant sailed through the chaos, its speakers still blasting jokes. No, she said softly. We just reminded them what joy feels like. Somewhere in the void, a Vex admiral screamed, not in anger, but in desperate, unwilling amusement. Elena's fingers danced across the console in the dimly lit communications hub beneath New Tokyo. The room smelled of ozone and stale coffee, the hum of ancient servers vibrating through her boots. Lieutenant Cole tossed her a headset, his grin visible even in the flickering emergency lighting. You sure about this, Doc? Once we hit send, there is no taking it back. Elena adjusted the gain on her microphone. They banned laughter, Marcus. You know what happens when you tell humans not to do something? Across the room, Zik's silicon skin rippled with uncharacteristic excitement. The melodefector had wired its neural interface directly into the galactic comm array. Bandwidth secured. The Council's firewalls will take 8 minutes to counter this intrusion. Elena cracked her knuckles. Plenty of time. She opened the transmission with a clip from Faced Century Earth, a man slipping on a banana peel. The feed exploded across every public screen from the Vex homeworld to Qual meditation spheres. On the bridge of the Silent Judgment, Admiral Krazak's scaled hands tightened around his command chair. What is this human filth? His protest died as the banana peel skit played. His second, in command, a battle-hardened Vex warrior, snorted. Then choked, then collapsed against the tactical display, armored ribs heaving. Admiral, I cannot breathe. Krazak's tail lashed. Disable your auditory receptors. But his own diaphragm spasmed as the feed cut to a classic Earth comedian delivering the punchline. Why did the chicken cross the road to get to the ugly alien's house? 3 decks below, Vex engineers abandoned their posts, rolling on the floor as laughter short circuited their respiratory systems. Warning klaxons blared unanswered. Meanwhile, in the Qual home system, the emotion feeding jellyfish experienced something unprecedented. Their translucent bodies pulsed violently as waves of human mirth flooded their neural nets. A young Qual delegate named Plix, Faye bobbed helplessly near the council chambers, its tendrils spasming with rainbow hues. Too much joy. It broadcast telepathically before dissolving into giggles. Dozens of Qual followed, their buoyancy sacs inflating uncontrollably until they floated like intoxicated balloons through the legislative dome. The Mela fared worst of all. Their rigid logical minds had no defenses against absurdity. High-speaker Morik stood frozen in its debate pod, silicon face twitching as a human sitcom laugh track played, cracks spread across its torso. Cease this illogical. Morik's voice glitched, then it emitted a sound no Malar had ever made, a high-pitched squeak of amusement. The entire council chamber gasped as their leader clutched its midsection, shaking with involuntary chuckles. Back on Earth, Marcus watched the chaos unfold across dozens of screens. Holy hell, Doc, you broke the galaxy. Elena smirked, queuing up the next clip, a compilation of cats failing to jump onto furniture. They wanted to regulate human laughter. Let's see them try. The USN Defiance engineers had jury, rigged every transmitter from Mercury to Pluto, ancient radio towers, deep space comm relays, even abandoned Martian billboards lit up with human humor. A Vex destroyer near Jupiter veered off course when its crew succumbed to a particularly vicious knock. Knock joke on the edge of known space. A lone Qual scout ship drifted, its crew incapacitated by a vintage blooper reel. The pilot, still giggling, accidentally activated the emergency beacon. The message that echoed across 100-star systems was simple: help too funny. By the time the Council's countermeasures kicked in, 73% of all alien government operations had ground to a halt. The Vex Armada floated helplessly, their warriors wheezing. Quoll delegates lay in gelatinous heaps, and the Mela, their silicon cities, echoed with strange, hiccuping sounds as generations of suppressed amusement erupted at once. Elena leaned back, stretching her arms. 4 minutes well spent. Zix-Fei's normally monotone voice wavered. Query, what is the human term for this sensation? Marcus tossed the Mela a datapad displaying a dictionary entry. We call it getting owned. The Defiance comm officer suddenly straightened. Incoming transmission from the Silent Judgment. Admiral Krazak's face appeared, his scales flushed purple with exertion. Enough, you chaotic apes. His snout twitched. A dangerous sound built in his chest. Elena raised an eyebrow. Yes, Admiral? The mighty Vex warlord burst into laughter so violent it shook the camera. His final words before collapsing were, "Curse your hilarious biology." The feed cut out. Marcus whistled. Think we overdid it. Outside the lunar base, a Quoll scout ship crash landed in a cornfield, its pilot still giggling. Elena powered down the main transmitter. Nah, this was just the warm-up act. Somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, a Mela child laughed for the first time. Its parents panicked. The galaxy would never be the same. The bridge of the USN Defiant hummed with frantic energy. Engineers scrambled between consoles, rerouting power from weapons systems to the massive speakers lining the ship's hull. Lieutenant Marcus Cole wiped sweat from his brow as he jammed another gum wrapper into the overloaded control panel. Tell me again why we're turning a warship into a goddamn comedy club? Elena Vasquez didn't look up from the holographic display where waveforms pulsed in erratic patterns. Because laughter is the one weapon they can't shield against. Her fingers danced across the interface, splicing together audio files. The Vex armor blocks plasma. Their dampeners neutralize sonic weapons. But this, she tapped the screen, and the ship's comm system blared a clip of a face-century comedian's punchline. Across the bridge, Ensign Rivas doubled over, clutching his stomach. Oh God, not the bit about the 2 priests again. His laughter cut off as warning sirens wailed. Vex Armada entering firing range, shouted Tactical Officer Chen. The main viewer flickered to life, displaying a swarm of angular dreadnoughts closing fast. Their plasma cannons glowed crimson as they powered up. Marcus spat his gum into a recycler. All right, Doc, time to see if your theory holds. He slapped the comms. All hands brace for wait. Elena's hand shot out, stopping him mid-sentence. She turned to Zix-Fei, the Mela defector standing rigid near the science station. You said their neural architecture can't process incongruity, right? Zix-Fei's silicon skin rippled with what might have been amusement. Correct. Our logic centers attempt to resolve the conflict until they blue screen. Elena's grin turned feral. She pulled up a new file labeled Monty Python and slammed it into the broadcast queue. Chen, target their command frequency. The Defiant shuddered as the Vex opened fire. Plasma bolts scorched past the shields, rocking the ship. Alarms blared as damage reports flooded in. Shields at Fei. Direct hit on deck Fei. Marcus gripped the armrests of his chair. Any day now, Doc. Elena's fingers flew across the console, activating Giggle Drive in 3-2. The ship's massive external speakers crackled to life. A single perfectly timed fart noise echoed across the battlefield. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the Vex flagship's Silent Judgment lurched sideways, its weapons systems powered down. Across the fleet, ships began drifting erratically, their formation collapsing. Marcus squinted at the viewer. Are they laughing? The comms exploded with garbled Vex transmissions. Growls turned into wheezes. Hisses became uncontrollable snorts. One warship's engines flared as its pilot lost control, sending it spiraling into another vessel in what looked like a drunken dance. Zix's normally impassive face twitched. Their neural inhibitors are overloading. The cognitive dissonance is a strange choking sound escaped its vocalizer, highly inefficient. Elena cranked the volume. The Defiant speakers now broadcast a rapid-fire sequence of classic jokes, puns, and absurdist one-liners. On screen, Vex crew members staggered across bridges, clutching their sides. One armored warrior collapsed to its knees, pounding the deck as its scales rattled with laughter. "Sir!" Chen yelled. Their flagship's life support just fluctuated. Sensors show their oxygen levels dropping. Marcus blinked. Are we suffocating them with jokes? Elena adjusted the frequency. Their respiratory systems can't handle prolonged laughter, too many abdominal contractions. She glanced at Zix. How long can they last? The Meller's eyes flickered. Approximately 6 more minutes before critical, it suddenly made a sound like cracking glass. A human might have called it a giggle. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. We're winning a space battle with dad jokes. The Defiant sailed unscathed through the now chaotic Vex armada. Enemy ships collided harmlessly, their crews incapacitated by relentless comedy. One cruiser spun in lazy circles, its thrusters firing randomly as its navigation team gasped for breath between guffaws. Elena leaned back, arms crossed. Told you laughter was a weapon, the comm crackled. A Vex admiral's voice came through, strained between bursts of involuntary mirth. Humans, NNG, cease this. Ha, unholy broadcast. Marcus keyed the mic. Sorry, can't hear you over the sound of victory. He nodded to Chen. Hit him with the aristocrats. As the filthiest joke in human history flooded Vex comm channels, the Armada's remaining discipline shattered. Warships listed drunkenly, their crews reduced to helpless, wheezing heaps. The Silent Judgment's engine sputtered and died, adrift in space with its entire command staff rolling on the deck in hysterics. Zix made another strange noise, its rigid posture softening. I believe I understand now why your species was banned. It gestured to the viewer. This is not warfare, this is art. Elena watched the last Vex ship power down, its weapons offline. No, she said softly. This is humanity. Outside, the stars burned cold and silent, but across 100 Vex vessels, the warm, unstoppable sound of human laughter echoed through the void. The chamber doors hissed open, revealing a scene Elena Vasquez never thought shed witness. The Galactic Harmony Council's crystalline arches trembled with sound, not the usual solemn echoes of bureaucratic decrees, but something far more dangerous, laughter. Millar delegates clutched their smooth silicon chests, their rigid postures broken by involuntary spasms. One of them had cracked entirely, fissures running through its shell as it wheezed. The human called it a dad joke. I do not understand why this hurts so pleasantly. Qual ambassadors floated near the ceiling, their gelatinous bodies pulsing with rainbow hues. They'd stopped trying to speak minutes ago, reduced to giggling puddles dripping onto the Vex ambassador's scaled head. The reptilian warrior snarled, but the effect was ruined when his own armored stomach let out an undignified snort. Elena stepped onto the central podium, the shredded remains of Directive Fee clutched in her fist. The holographic band scroll fizzed as she tossed it into the recycler. The sound of paper tearing was drowned out by a Vex admiral in the back choking on his own laughter. You wanted to regulate joy, Elena said, her voice carrying across the chamber. Tried to neuter human laughter because it disrupted your precious order. She tapped her temple. Turns out you just couldn't handle the voltage. A qual splattered onto the floor beside her, reforming just enough to gasp. More more of the one about the bleen and the hydroponics tank. Lieutenant Marcus Cole leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, chewing gum. "Told you they'd break," he muttered. On the view screen behind him, the USN Defiant hovered in high orbit, its newly installed giggle drive humming ominously. Every alien ship in the blockade had powered down, their crews too busy clutching their sides to maintain combat readiness. The Miller high speaker staggered forward, its usual monotone shattered into hiccuping fragments. This is an outrage. You have weaponized biological absurdity." "No," Elena corrected, grinning. "We just reminded you that laughter isn't a weakness. It's a universal constant." She gestured to the screen, where a Vex dreadnought drifted lazily, its gun ports still open but its crew rolling in the aisles. "Your fleets neutralized, your laws meaningless, because you can't legislate away what you don't understand." A quall near the ceiling exploded into a shower of glittering mist, reforming seconds later with a contented sigh. "We surrender," it burbled. Just keep the one about the 3 gratics walking into a bar coming." Marcus tossed Elena a small device, the override for the Defiance resonance cannon. She held it up, watching the council members flinch. "Here's the new deal. Directive Faye is gone. Earth's comedy channels get unrestricted galactic broadcast rights. And you." She pointed at the Vex Admiral, now slumped against a wall, his tail twitching with residual giggles. "Get to explain to your warlords why their invincible armada got taken down by a knock joke." The chamber erupted, not in protest, not in fury, but in something far more terrifying. Uncontrollable, unfiltered, human-style laughter. The Milar high speaker tried to stand tall, to reclaim some semblance of dignity. It lasted 3 seconds before a snort escaped its vocal modulator. This is highly irregular," it managed before dissolving into hiccups. Elena turned on her heel, Marcus falling into step beside her, as they strode toward the exit. Behind them, the qual started singing a horribly off, key rendition of Never Gonna Give You Up, they'd picked up from an ancient human meme archive. "Think they'll hold a grudge?" Marcus asked, popping his gum. Elena glanced back at the chaos, Vex warrior's arm, wrestling for the last packet of laughing gas, Mela bureaucrats trading terrible puns, the entire council chamber vibrating with the sound of pure, unfettered joy. "Nah," she said, pushing the doors open. "They'll be too busy trying to figure out why the chicken crossed the road." And somewhere in the depths of space, a quall giggled itself to sleep, dreaming of dad jokes.